Okay, Coach. Game week number 1, Idaho State versus San Diego State coming up. First of all, can you just tell us, coming out of fall camp, how the team's doing, and then as we enter the preparations for this first week?
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty well. I think when you start preparing for a game, it's always an interesting reset, just because you go from playing yourself every day and getting a normal flow of things, and then there's a much greater urgency once you start getting into game week. Just the deadlines of things that have to happen, things you have to get installed can change, and so that's been fun to see our guys just work through those for a couple days. Just it's the first time for us where we've been able to work against somebody else's red zone looks and somebody else's third down looks, and those are things that create a little bit of stress for guys. Wednesday's probably not as clean as you want it to be. It never is. I told our guys after practice, as long as I've been coaching, which is not as long as some, but Wednesdays are always the worst because it's your last time of really hitting and going and rehearsing things. But the good news is that Thursday you get an opportunity to clean them up and walk through them and talk them and watch some film, and the guys have had another day for all those checks and looks to marinate. And then on Friday you get another full speed pop at it, which is always good. But I think we're relatively healthy. I'm not as healthy as you want to be, but healthier than some. So we're fortunate and thankful, and ready to go play a game.
Cody, what would constitute a successful season for you?
I said success for me is getting better. I know some people don't want to hear that. And it's funny, I was at a Bengal booster event last night, and I said, hey, what? If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. Like, oh, just win. I was like, well, that's fine, but in my experience, the people who focus on results usually end up being losers. I think winning is a result of a great process, and so we got to continue to focus on that. And for our guys, it's a different process, and clearly whatever we were doing the last couple of years hasn't worked, and it doesn't mean that those coaches weren't great and the players weren't great, but we got to keep tweaking with that formula. So my goal this year is that the kids enjoy it, that we have a better retention rate than we've had the last 2 years. You don't want to replace 60 guys every offseason. That's not a way to build a winning culture. So we got to make sure that we teach the guys really well and prepare them really well and make sure that they have fun. And at the end of the day, your job as a coach is not to get them to be the best on the planet. That's impossible. It's to get them to be their best and maximize their own potential as a young man and as a football player, and that's what we're going to try and do every day. So I'll probably be able to tell you on a weekly basis, regardless what the scoreboard is, how well we're doing at that.
Coach, I know you probably watched the game Saturday, San Diego State, and then you've reviewed the video. What are your impressions of San Diego State after week 1?
San Diego State is always everybody's least favorite team to play. On the West Coast, there aren't very many options because there's no real D2 football anymore, and the only FCS schools you can play are already conference games. So you got to play Pac-12 or Mountain West schools, and you prefer to play somebody that's going to throw it 90 times a game and not punch you in the mouth. Well, San Diego State, they're going to try and run right down our throat for 60 minutes. I think for those guys, they'd love to score more than 20 points. Obviously, they got a new offensive coordinator who's a super seasoned guy. I respect Coach Lindley a lot. So they're going to try and put up some points on us, but they're going to do it their way. They're going to ram it down your throat and take shots when they can. The quarterback will create some problems. And on defense, you'd love for somebody to be a little bit more simple for a young offensive group to look at because they do about as much up front and on the back end as anybody in the country. Brady Hoke has carried that over from what Rocky Long has always done, and Rocky was always a defensive maestro. He was always funky. Usually you're going to see 1, 2, maybe 3 fronts in a game. This game, you got to be ready for about 7 or 8, and their pressure rate is much higher than anybody else's. So they're going to hit us in the face, and they're going to challenge us, and they're going to force us to make plays, and we're going to do our best to make sure guys counter that. You try and think the more expansive that a defense gets, the smaller you want your game plan to be, which should help us from a cognition standpoint for what we're asking our quarterbacks and our playmakers to do. But we also have to be prepared for a lot of different looks that could be disastrous if we're not.
Coach, I don't know if you saw Brady's press conference yesterday. Somebody asked him, some of the San Diego media asked him about the fact that ISU has a new coach, they got a new staff, they got a bunch of new players. What does he know about them? He admitted it's a problem. He said we had to look at what the coordinators have done in the past, like at Washington State, Hawaii, UC Davis, to try and get an idea as to what we may see Saturday. At least in the early going of the game Saturday, is that an advantage for you guys?
If they were a drastically different defense, depending on the personnel that they saw, it might be. I don't think it is. They're going to hit us in the face regardless. They're going to play 6-man box regardless. What they do on the back end, just given a talent disparity, I'm sure they're probably not uncomfortable playing man like a lot of those big teams are. You know, they say that they're going to show up and they're going to play man. They're going to force you to beat them. Now, maybe that helps you for the first little bit of the game, but we got to get in our flow and worry about our stuff. Obviously, I know Coach Hope can be modest and humble because he's been super successful throughout his career, and so he doesn't need to be scared because he's got enough answers that he can come up with in 30 seconds that it would take me a decade to come up with. So he's going to have those guys ready to go, and San Diego State's going to make a run in the Mountain West this year. And all phases, they're a problem. And while it might help us in pregame or the first drive, you got to play 60 minutes of good football to win a game. So we'll have to counterpunch as well.
What's your strategy as far as quarterbacks concerned?
Yeah, we're going to play multiple guys just because I think, I don't necessarily believe in gamers, but I do think some guys handle stress better than others. Stress of the crowd, the moment. The speed of the game can change things for guys because some guys don't worry about the speed of the game in practice because they know they're not going to get their lips ripped off. But yeah, we're going to play multiple guys, and it's going to be fun. And for us, we have a lot of guys on our team. I said the good thing about our team is we have a lot of depth at the skill positions. I said we probably don't have a lot of those elite guys, but our floor is extremely high. And the separator is going to be how those guys respond in moments. We've had some guys have fantastic off seasons in camp that I'm excited to see if they can translate that into a game. You have a guy like Raiden Hunter who's been an outstanding football player here. He's been limited by injury ever since I got here. It's going to be his first opportunity to get some live pops, and if he can do what he did last year, he's going to be in great shape. If it takes him a little while to knock off the rust, then some of the other guys might get some more burn. But it'll be good for us to play a lot of guys and just see what they can do when the lights come on.
Coach, do you have different packages for the different quarterbacks based on their strengths?
We do. I think you have to package things differently for every skill position. I mean, we'll have different groups of receivers that are going to be in, different groups of linemen that are going to be in, different groups of running backs, and you want to make sure some guys are great zone runners, some guys are purely gap scheme runners. Some quarterbacks do better with quick games and RPOs and pocket movement than they do with just pure drop back game. And then offensive linemen, we got some guys that can get out and move in space, but we also got some guys that are big old dudes that down block, and that's all they do. So we'll make sure that we have sub packages accordingly just to try and maximize our skill sets. I think to be a good coach, you have to make sure that you utilize the talent that you have like you can until you end up at a Georgia or Alabama where you can pick and choose exactly who you want, or you're in the NFL and you can draft accordingly. I mean, we got to take the great players that we have and put them in a position to be successful if we want to win around here.
You touched on it a little bit already. How tough is it to start the season, especially your first season with this program, with 2 Mountain West opponents in a row on the road?
Yeah, well, I think it's not even the Mountain West thing. I mean, I think the Big Sky's as good as any football in the country, and I know, hey, we beat a few Mountain West teams. I mean, I don't know. When was the last year that a Big Sky team did not beat an FBS team? I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find one. And I was a part of a couple of them, which is great, but our conference is a gauntlet. The thing for us is that you're going to get 0 breaks anyways. Obviously, I think the opponents, I have a ton of respect for them. Obviously, I think, Utah State is looking to right the ship, and they're going to have a ton of speed. I haven't seen any of their tape. I just kind of know what they're known for. But I think for us, it's controlling the mindset. And for me, I tell guys, my goal is not to win X amount of games ever. I'm always going to prepare to win each game every week. And if we do what we can, then we'll win. But I don't know why guys look at the scoreboard if you are converting 30% of your third downs and turning the football over and you're 1 for 4 in the red zone. Like, I don't care if you win the game or not, you played terribly. We need to get better. And I think, whether it's building a business, building a family, the scoreboard matters, but staring at the scoreboard will lead you down the wrong path. So we got to focus on the process, and we'll do that every week. And it's going to be a low margin for error, but like I said, Northern Iowa might be better than those 2 teams. I respect the heck out of those guys. So, yeah, 3 not easy games, but you also don't come to Idaho State to play powder puff. You come to play Division I football.
Yeah, building on that, there was that article floating around that had Idaho State's schedule ranked as the toughest in the entire FCS. The standard, it kind of has been those 2 FBS opponents to start the year. Obviously, it's not all up to you, I guess, but would that sort of be your intention going forward to keep the schedule the way it has been?
I think Pauline's working on trying to change that. Obviously, I think getting the 7 wins is the benchmark that you got to get in the playoffs. So I think we got to be willing to go play anybody and everybody, especially if those monetary gains can change your program. But I think if they're not drastically changing the program and you're not seeing $500,000 of investment back into the program every year, we got to figure out how we're going to reallocate our resources, because playing 3 non-winnable games, I'm not saying our games are not, but if you schedule like that, I mean, playing Oregon State next year, if we beat them, it'd be the greatest upset in the history of college football. I know that. But it doesn't mean you're going to try and go lose the game. I mean, you're going to try and go play and have some fun and get better and take your cuts. But, if you aren't winning 7 games, you're going to have a hard time growing the program. And I think the last 2 winning seasons Idaho State has had here, they beat a Division II team. So I think if you look at those schedules, I'm not saying you want to play Division II teams, but your scheduling model, if you want to be successful, is going to change. And if you win your first game, those teams usually end up winning 60% of their games. If you look at the stats, if you win the first one, you usually win 60% of your games. And if you're going to schedule a bunch of L's on the front row, it's tough to get the plane off the ground.
Cody, you've been here for 8 months now.
Yeah.
New dome, renovation, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of positive energy around the program. What's your impressions? Did you buy what you thought you were buying when you came in 8 months ago?
I think I knew what I was buying. You're buying a car that is a classic and has a ton of potential. But problems, even my own problems of my own shortcomings, are things that you don't necessarily find out until you actually get there. But everything that I thought was going to be amazing at Idaho State has been beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, Pauline's fantastic to work for. The kids, given what they have gone through, have been absolutely amazing. I've been super fortunate to have guys like Jeff Pittman here and Mark Weber who've done a lot. I think Coach Ronda's been an amazing surprise. The administration and the community really want to help. I mean, the amount of people who've been such a blessing to me and my family, I can't count the number of them. There are a lot of things here that are funny because, you go into thinking you're going to be a head coach and you're used to solving problems. And it's like, hey, if you're the head coach at a school that you've been at, it's probably easier because you understand those problems, whereas the positives and negatives here are drastically different than the last place I was at. And it's funny, you'll talk to 10 people in a room who look at you like you have 7 heads when you tell them things should be done a certain way, but I've never done it any other way, and the other places have been successful, so I don't know why I would change. Now, maybe I need to adapt, or we all kind of need to adapt, but that's part of the excitement of a new program is getting to work on new things together and try and fix those problems and continue to collaborate to find the best solution for everyone.
What's been your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge here is just getting everybody rowing in the right direction, just creating alignment with the program, which it has a lot to do with success. But when you come in, it's I have a vision of how I want practice to run, and it's conveying every bit of minutia of that practice, from the music to the noise level to what music you're actually listening to the yard lines and the tempo at which you move, and are you getting breaks, are you not getting breaks? I mean, having to coach every little detail is exhausting, and it's not necessarily that the other ways are wrong, but you all got to go in the same direction. And if you're in a river and you got 10 different currents, you end up getting a little eddy and you go nowhere, right? The current has to flow in one direction, and it may be the wrong direction, but everybody's got to go in one direction. And that means, hey, a single block or a tray block last year meant X footwork for the offensive line, and this year it means this footwork, and making sure we're using the right verbiage, timing, scheduling. Everything's been a change, but it's all been a wonderful opportunity for growth, and hopefully we continue to massage those out, and we'll get a nice smooth surface, and we'll get this thing rolling.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, going into the locker room Saturday in San Diego, what is the message going to be to the team going into this game?
I always say, I'm going to be really boring for you guys every week. I'll always try to be honest and transparent with you guys, but the same thing I say is I always have one of our players give a pregame speech. That's not my job. I think if they aren't ready to go on Saturday, we're going to have a problem. I don't think listen to a short, fat white guy with a receding hairline is going to really fire them up. But I want them to talk to their teammates. But I say, play hard, play smart, play together, and have fun. Like, if you do those things, you should be proud of the result. And I think at various times, certain things, those have been issues, particularly the playing together. That's why we've really tried to talk about it together with our team and say, when the offense makes a play, I want to see the defense celebrate. And I want the defense to understand that when the offense makes a play, that they should be excited. And, just like when the defense gets a turnover, offense should take it personally to protect that football, because the defense worked really hard to get it back for us. So that's going to be my message every game. We'll see who it'll probably be Raiden Hunter, because we're a San Diego guy giving the pregame speech. But those are the 4 things I'm going to say all the time: play hard, play smart, play together, have fun.
Coach, this is a good segue. You were talking about, the program and things that, you're trying to do and everything. This is your first game as a head coach Saturday. What's going through your mind? How do you feel about that? Has it even hit you yet?
I think it's funny, and maybe I've approached every game like that, just because when I've been on the sidelines, I think being around my dad probably made me more privy to other information that was floating around the head coach's head. You know, even being at Davis with my dad, which is different than most people. I mean, he talks to the whole entire staff about scholarship numbers. He talks to the entire staff about discipline issues. He talks to them about game day decisions. It's not like you're on the headset totally muted out from other things. I mean, he's openly talking about it. So they're conversations that I have been privy to for my entire life. But I also know that I'm asking a lot of our staff, just because if I'm going to go out there and call the plays, I mean, I know I'm going to be managing the game when the defense is on the field and trying to communicate the adjustments as best as I can and trying to make sure that the assistants are hearing and communicating the same things I'm trying to communicate. Again, not because I'm the smartest guy ever. We just want to be in alignment on all those adjustments. But I don't know. For me, it's another football game. I've been around football my whole life. The thing that concerns me the most is trying to make sure I do the best job for the kids, because the kids deserve you to do a great job, and that means putting them in positions to be successful and protecting them and keeping them safe and giving them an opportunity to succeed.
Looking at the two deep, you saw my tweet. Was the interpretation correct on the offensive side that it's not?
Absolutely,
it's not tricks.
It's all a joke. I mean, it's and I say the reality is because we don't know, and we know we're going to play a lot of guys. I mean, up front at the skill positions, I mean, you guys are just as likely to start as half the guys on our team, just because I think you're all wonderful, outstanding people and be super accountable in the heat of the moment.
How much money do I owe?
Yeah, but you know, we're going to play a lot of guys, and that's where I put the oars, because I don't want somebody to put their head in the sand right now, because yeah, you might be a two deep, but you may end up playing 50 plays on Saturday. Just like today, we had a guy go down, and now the guy who thought he wasn't going to play at all and was having conversations with coaches about how do I get on the field, well, now you're instantly on the field for over half the reps. So I think everybody just has to be ready, and I did that intentionally to emphasize that all of our guys need to be ready to play, because, you know, games aren't won and lost, you know, by what you've done in the offseason. You got to go out and play, and the preparation has to do a ton with winning the game. But all of our guys, we need contributors. We don't need starters and backups. We need everybody to be bought in, because whether you're the starting quarterback or the last guy on the bench, you have an equal opportunity to positively influence this football team.
Coach, one of the players on San Diego State.
It's okay.
Easy, John.
It's okay.
John gets emotional.
He does.
I got really mad about that question.
I did not throw the chair.
I haven't even asked the question.
I'm sick of two deep questions.
Coach, you know, San Diego State has a transfer wide receiver from Western Carolina who put up some eye-popping numbers with the Catamounts.
Yeah.
He hasn't been ruled eligible yet by the NCAA. Do you know anything about that? Is he expected to play Saturday? Are you preparing for the possibility? His last name is Williams, and I think he had something like 1,800 yards.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Carolina.
if you're from Carolina, you can roll. We actually have a Catamount on our team, Chester Gaffard, who's an amazing guy. He's a team favorite. But, you know, Coach Pitt was at Western Carolina, so he knows those guys too. I mean, they're built different down there. You know, I would love for Hope to come out and just play all of his freshmen, just make it an even match. The reality is he's not going to do that, because they got a great program, and I don't know anything about how the NCAA is making all of these decisions, because we've had decisions we thought were surefire things and they didn't work out, and things that we thought were absolutely no shot in heck, and they ended up coming through. So whatever decision process they got to go through, but we got to be ready to play against anybody who they put on the field.
Are we good?
That's it for me.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.